All right, hello everyone. So in the last video, what we did is we wrote this script together. So we wrote all this information in here. But as I mentioned before, there's a lot of times where you're not going to be able to remember all of this information. So what you want to do is, again, you want to go over the documentation. I'm going to show you basically what you're going to be doing over here. Okay, so there's two different documentation, just to be aware. I believe in one of my last videos, I showed you SuiteScript 2.0, but which was 400 pages. There's another one called SuiteScript 2.0 API reference, which is 1,600 pages. So this is the one you want to have on hand. The other one is just a good read if you want to read it. But this one is the one that's going to be showing you basically your API. So it's going to show you all the modules and what methods it has. Okay, even though it's long, don't let this intimidate you. It just has a lot of information in here because it's just broken down in detail. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is you want to go into your tables of contents and you want to take a look at here, NetSuite 2.0 modules. Okay, so if I click here on this, which it all conveniently is linked, you're going to be seeing a list of all the different modules that NetSuite provides out of the box. And you can see here, there are quite a lot. So each module has a bunch of different functions that you can use to do certain logic in here. Okay, so you have email, for example, if you want to send certain emails directly. You have crypto, you have currencies. There's a lot of modules in here. What we want to take a look at is the UI message that we just used. Okay, so if you keep scrolling down a little bit, you're going to be able to see UI dialog, UI message, UI server widget. So the one here you want to use is this UI message, right? So it tells you load this message, load this module and display a message at the top of the screen under the menu bar. Okay, and then it also tells you what different script type does this support, right? It's always either client or server script. Okay, remember the client-side scripts are run on the client and every other type is a server script. So user event, scheduled, map reduce, everything is server-side. Okay, so this message dialog is always just a client script. You cannot run this on the server because that doesn't make any sense, right? You wouldn't want to show a message because the server doesn't really have a browser, it doesn't have a page, right? It just runs a code. So this is run always on the client script. So if we click on it, again, it is conveniently linked and it's gonna redirect you here. So we're at page 1266. Okay, so here is gonna tell you what this message does and it tells you a bunch of information about it. Okay, so here this message has a bunch of different things. It has a bunch of different methods. Okay, so this method it has here create, for example. This is a method that you can use. And then it also gives you a nice example in here of how you can use it. I believe every module has a small example here underneath the actual reference. So this is what the message would look like, right? So you see here we have success, warning, error, and information or confirmation, right? So you see here message.message. Okay, so basically it gives you more information about this. So you see here you have .hide because we use .show, right? But you can show and hide it programmatically instead of waiting for a certain duration. You have .show, which tells you, what is the, what basically you want to show it for a certain duration. And you see under .show, it tells you what parameters does that method or function accepts. And here we have duration, right? So duration takes an integer or a string, and it is optional. It is not mandatory. Okay, so here it tells you a description on it. So it tells you that, for example, this duration is the amount of time in milliseconds to show the message, right? The default is 0, which shows the message until the message is hidden programmatically, right? So if you do not give it a time, it's just going to show forever unless you do message.hide. Okay. If you put any string, it will be parsed into a number. So it's really nice and well laid out documentation. And then it shows you a little short document, example here. Not the whole thing. It doesn't show you the whole file. It just tells you that this is the little block of code that you need to do if you want to do this, use this function. Okay. Same with create. So this is we used already, create, and we passed in the type, the title, the message. We could pass the duration right away in here if we want to instead of in the show. Okay. So the type, for example, it tells you that it accepts, one of these enums, right? The title was a string, the message is also a string. But here the type, you can click on this message.type, right? And it's going to show you that you only have confirmation, information, warning, or error. And each of them correspond to a different color. So confirmation is always green, the information is blue, warning yellow, error red, and you get it. Okay, and this is how you would pass it in here. It's an enum, so it cannot be a string. It has to be in their own data structure. All right, so this is basically how you would be going over the documentation. Once you get familiar and comfortable with this layout of different methods and how they laid it out in documentation, you'll be much faster at finding what you're looking for. All right, we'll talk in the next video about how to upload the code that we wrote together, and we're going to be testing it out right away into NetSuite.